Hello and welcome back to the RDF Tactics YouTube channel. I'm RDF and today's video we have a fantastic 4-3-3 to test out on Football Manager. It's a 4-3-3 that I've created myself. With Liverpool it got some fantastic results. In the league we won every single game apart from 2. Of course it's Liverpool. So we went into League 2, we picked Scunthorpe who are predicted to finish 14th to find out how well they can do with the tactics. So in this video we are going to look at the strengths and weaknesses of a 4-3-3. Then we're going to talk about the main ideas behind my 4-3-3, and then we're going to look at the results and tactic in Football Manager. Before we start though, I have a couple shout outs. Shout out to Adusa in my Discord channel. Adusa encouraged me to start creating more tactics of my own instead of just recreations. Also shout out to my Patreons as well. You guys have been absolutely fantastic with your support. If you want to support, my Patreon will be in the description. And also if you enjoy this type of content, make sure you are subscribed to this channel. Make sure you like this video. Also you can share it, that will help a lot. But for now, let's get started. So first of all, we are going to look at the strengths and weaknesses of the 4-3-3. The image that you're seeing on the screen now was created by Russell Pope. Make sure you follow him on Twitter as well. His Twitter handle is in the image at the top right. It provides excellent balance in central midfields with the 3 central midfielders. The number 6 acts as a defensive screen for the back 4. A deep midfielder allows the fullbacks more freedom to join the attack. The balance in the midfield allows for 1 or 2 of the central midfielders to join the attack, which we will talk about a little bit later in my tactic. The natural wide players allow for penetration in the wide areas, supported by the fullbacks. The system creates natural passing triangles when in possession, and defensively, the formation can shift to a 4-1-4-1 or 4-5-1, which it does in my case, and provides good defensive coverage when in a mid to low block. For the weaknesses, the system relies on a good defensive discipline from the number 6 to protect the defence. If this isn't the case, then the back 4 can be easily exposed. The fullbacks can become isolated in a 2v1 if the wingers in the system are caught up high up the pitch. The absence on the number 10 means that there is a natural lack of creativity in and around zone 14, although the system can easily switch to a 4-2-3-1. Again, this is something similar that we do try and achieve in my tactic as well, and the centre forward can become isolated if the system shifts to a 4-5-1 in a mid to low block, which shouldn't happen too much in our case. So now we've discovered the strengths and weaknesses of a 4-3-3, we can now talk about the idea of my 4-3-3. So now we're going to talk very briefly about the main attacking and defensive principles before looking at the tactic in Football Manager, because there is where I will go into more details about each player role and team instructions. So the idea or main attacking principles of this tactic is pretty straightforward. I wanted the front 3 to be as close together as possible. The inside forwards and the poacher will pin the defence back, and this creates space in front of the defence line. This allows our creative players in midfield to then advance into that space so they can play make in dangerous zones, feeding the front 3. With the attackers attacking narrowly, that will also force the AI to defend very narrowly as well, and that's where the fullbacks come in handy by being wide and supporting that area. Once they have the ball out wide, they have the option to either play inside to a creative midfielder, or they can cross centrally where we have bodies inside the box. The idea for the fullbacks in this type of situation is that he shouldn't have a bad option. The 3 midfielders in the middle really help keep play narrow, but as we have 3 direct attackers trying to occupy the opposition's defence line, a lot of our attack and play will happen in central areas almost naturally, which is my preferred area to attack, as you can create some very dangerous chances, especially with the front 3 always looking to penetrate and cause problems. Defensively, the tactic is solid, and a lot of that is down to the 4-3-3 formation. We have players covering most areas of the pitch, and if we do lose the ball high, our screening player and fullbacks shouldn't be out of their position and therefore preventing the counter attack. Once the ball is lost, we will look to counter press, but our press isn't too aggressive. Longer spells without the ball, our 4-3-3 shape allows us to form a 4-5-1 shape, which makes it difficult for the opponents to break us down. We don't engage our opponents very high, but high enough to not allow them to play out the back freely. But that there is the main mechanics of the tactic. Now we're going to go into Football Manager to look at the player roles and team instructions in a little bit more detail. So now let's head over. So here we are in Football Manager, and some of you may have seen this tactic being developed on my Twitter. Make sure you follow me on Twitter as well. But on Twitter and in Discord actually, I was creating this tactic, posting some results and the formation as I went along. And those of you who were watching this tactic build up on my Twitter or on Discord, you will notice that there's maybe 1 or 2 different roles now. So at the beginning I started with an advanced playmaker, well 2 advanced playmakers in central midfield, and I had a deep lying playmaker just behind them. Testing it with Liverpool, it done very well, absolutely amazing. Testing it with Scunthorpe, it done very well again, but I noticed that it could do just a little bit better. The important role change for me was changing that deep line playmaker into a defensive midfielder. But we also do have 3 versions, so we have one with the advanced playmaker in central midfield and a defensive midfielder. We do have one with a roaming playmaker in defensive midfield. You can use this tactic if you are then struggling to break teams down. And we do have a 3rd tactic. It's a little bit more solid. Instead of 2 advanced playmakers, we now have a box-to-box midfielder. So I mainly used the 1st tactic. I used the 2nd one if I was playing a very weak opponent, and I used the 3rd one if I was playing a very strong opponent. You can just stick with the 1st tactic, this will give you good enough results, but as a bonus I do have 2 other tactics for you to try out or use in your save. So to go through the player roles, for the mentality, we are using the positive mentality, nothing too attacking, nothing too cautious. We are looking to be on the ball and looking to play the ball around a little bit patiently whilst waiting for any spaces or gaps to appear for us to then exploit. The attacking width is set to fairly wide, so nothing too narrow, nothing too wide. Naturally, those inside forwards will come in and play very narrowly. My attacking width won't necessarily change that, so if I went to very wide, my inside forwards are still going to look to come inside no matter what. The attacking width mainly is set in your passing direction, so if you are using extremely wide, your players on the ball are looking to play the ball out in wider areas, and vice versa if you are using very narrow. Once your players do have the ball, they are going to look to keep the ball in the central areas. That is where the passing direction is mainly going to be focused on rather than the players positioning. With the approach play, we are going to be playing out from the defense. We are asking our defenders not to clear the ball once they have the ball. We want them to keep possession, look to retain the possession, and naturally our players, especially our midfielders, will look to drop deep to collect the ball rather than just staying in midfield and making it difficult for our team to play out from the defense. For your passing directness, we are using the shorter passing with the slightly higher tempo. We want to keep possession of the ball, but we don't want the possession just for possession's sake, and we also want the ball from the defense to attack in a fairly quick manner. In the final third, we are going to be sending in whipped crosses. This can be dangerous. We do have 3 attacking plays as our front 3, so if we are whipping in those crosses, we do have 3 attacking plays anticipating that ball inside the box. But we are also trying to work the ball into the box where you can have some nice intricate play outside the area, especially between your poacher and your inside forwards. A lot of people just think the poacher isn't going to do anything but stay on the last line of the defense, which actually isn't true. Your poacher can be involved in play. Working the ball into the box may get your poacher more involved in the play as well. So you will notice that your poacher can score goals, but he can also create some goals as well. I did notice that we had Be More Disciplined selected, which shouldn't have, so I have removed it. In transition, when the possession has been lost, we are going to counter press, try to win the ball back fairly quickly, and when the possession has been won, we are then going to make our counter movement, which again is fairly dangerous and it suits the front 3. Once we do win the ball back, they are going to look to penetrate the opponent's defense line, and this can actually force the AI to drop their defense line deeper as well. Of course, they do not want to be exposed. For out of possession, we are using a higher line of engagement, a higher defense line. I did start off with a standard defense line, but I did notice some gaps appearing, especially when I'm using a roaming playmaker. Of course, he's going to roam from his position, therefore not protecting that back four very well. So when I shifted my defense line, of course my defense line is now a little bit more closer to my midfield. So if that roaming playmaker does roam, that gap between our defense line and central midfielders shouldn't be too big. For our pressing intensity, we are set to more urgent, we are preventing the short goalkeeper distribution, and for the tackling, we are going to be getting stuck in. So that there is the team instruction. We are now going to move over to the player roles and player instructions. In goal, we do have a sweeper keeper. He's going to look to stay outside of his box, his penalty box, and look to play counter-attacking passes, but he can also be involved in our build-up play and also form a natural triangle or diamond with our defensive players, such as our centre-backs and defensive midfielders. In central defence, we have a central defender and a ball playing defender, a nice mix there of playing safe and playing risky passes. The central defender will look to mark tighter, and so will the ball playing defender. For the fullback, the left fullback out wide as the fullback on support. His instruction is to cross aim into the centre, where we are looking to have 3 attacking players, especially the inside forwards and the poacher. The advanced playmaker or a box-to-box midfielder, if you are using one, may get into the box in time, so possibly you can have 4 or 5 players in the box all at once. Therefore, your fullbacks crossing into the centre is probably the most dangerous option, as well as whipping the ball into the box. The right back has the exact same instructions and player role as the left back. In defensive midfield, we do have a defensive midfielder who's actually instructed to get further forward. He's going to close down more, tackle harder, and mark tighter, trying to replicate a Roman playmaker, as I did start out with a Roman playmaker. One thing I liked about the Roman playmaker is his movements getting further forward, so when I use a defensive midfielder, I also added that instruction. Now, this doesn't happen on a regular basis. When we do have the ball, he's not going to get further forward every single time. By adding this instruction, we are only increasing his tendency. In central midfield, for the number 1 tactic, we do have an advanced playmaker under attack duty. He's going to pass it short to get further forward, tackle harder, and mark tighter. Your advanced playmaker is someone that will look to drop into holes between the opposition's midfield and defense line, making himself available for his teammates' passes and aiming to turn defense into attack very instantly. The one under attacking duty, of course, is going to be a little bit more direct, trying to get further forward a little bit more as well, whilst the one on support is mainly going to stay in the hole and look to spray passes to the forwards, again, which is very dangerous when we have 2 inside forwards looking to come inside and have a poacher already occupying the defenders. On either flanks, we do have 2 inside forwards under attacking duty. They too are looking to cross aim into the centre for the exact same reasons as the fullbacks, but of course, if the inside forwards are the ones crossing, there may be one less body in the box than there would be with a fullback crossing. And also, I have asked them or instructed them to stay more narrower. This then may retain a solid defensive shape, but the players can also be close at hand to be more involved in possession and the attacking play. Lastly, up top, we do have a poacher. He has no added instructions, of course. His main focus is on scoring goals, so extreme that he may not be involved in the attacking play or the attacking build-up. But like I said earlier, it doesn't mean that he's not going to be involved in the play. We have added work the ball into the box, so once the ball is in and around the opponent's box, the poacher will then come more alive. He's not going to look to drop deep once we are building up in central areas. He's not going to come deep and start linking up play, spraying the ball out wide. That is not what he's going to do. He's mainly going to stay up top, and once the ball is around the box, then he is going to come alive, and that is also where he can create some goals as well. So for the second tactic, we do have a Roman playmaker. He's instructed to close down more, tackle harder, and mark tighter. But in the third tactic, we have a box-to-box midfielder. He's going to pass it shorter, dribble less, tackle harder, and mark tighter. So that there wraps up all 3 tactics. Like I said, the first one is the main tactic. That is what I was mainly using. The second one is when I'm struggling to break defenses down, or I'm playing against a very weak opposition and I'm brave enough to start with a Roman playmaker. And lastly, we have a box-to-box version when you are playing a very strong opponent. If you aren't the best team and you don't want to take risk, maybe you can start with this formation as well. So that there is all 3 tactics. Right now, we are going to look at the amazing results that Liverpool produced, whilst also going to Scunthorpe and checking how well they did. So now, let's check the results. So with Liverpool in the Premier League, we done absolutely amazing, ridiculous results here. We played 38, we won 36, meaning we only drew 1 and we only lost 1. A goal difference of plus 94 and a points tally of 109. Now, with the Liverpool tactic, I mainly used the first one, but the defensive midfielder can be changed to a deep line playmaker. That's how it started out. It didn't end that way, but it's how it started out. And again, I noticed that the tactic was more effective when I changed the DLP to a defensive midfielder. But we also won the UEFA Champions League, beating Manchester City in the final on penalties after drawing 2-2. In the Emirates FA Cup, we won that competition, and the Community Shield, we also won that. The Carabao Cup, we got knocked out in the 3rd round. So as you can see in the Premier League, we scored 104 goals, only conceded 10. Absolutely ridiculous. We had a points tally of 2.87 per game. We scored the most goals, of course we did. We didn't have the most shots for though. Manchester United did. We only had 641. For the best pass completion, we came in 4th with 89%, which is good enough. For the average possession, we're on 55%. Again, good enough. For the most tackles won, we're coming in 6th with 916. For the most dribbles made, we made the most dribbles, but only by 2 in the league with 167. We had the most clean sheets. Of course we did, 29 clean sheets in 38 games, and for the fewest conceded, we only conceded 10 goals. For the player stats, for the top goal scorer, we can see that Mo Salah scored 20, Callum Wilson scored 22, which is the most. Diego Jota scored 15. For the most assists, Mo Salah is there with 16, Sadio Mane is there with 10. For the most shots, we have Mo Salah and Sadio Mane. None of these players, by the way, were the poacher, so that's very interesting. For the player of the match, we have Mo Salah with 10, Virgil van Dijk with 6. Most key passes, Mo Salah is there with 103. For the best pass completion, Joe Gomez just makes that list with 95%. For the tackles won, nobody there. For the most dribbles made, we have Mo Salah on 48 and we have Sadio Mane on 38. For the clean sheets, we have Alisson on 28, and for the fewest conceded, we have Alisson on 9. So now we're going to have a look at the team report and see how efficient the attack and play was. For the attacking efficiency, you can see that we were aggressive and clinical. In fact, we were the most clinical side in the league despite taking the 2nd most shots. And we were more clinical than a lot of teams in the league. Well, we were more clinical than everybody in the league. Defensively, if I can find it, defensively we done very well as well. We were quiet and very impenetrable. We faced fewer shots per game than average, and we conceded fewer goals than what would be expected from the number of shots that we faced. How did we score most of our goals? 51 from play shots, 10 from powerful shots, and 13 from headers. And for the assist, 18 from through balls, 13 from crosses, and 13 from free kicks, which is, it's a lot. So for Liverpool, we can have a quick skim through the results. We started off the season with a 4-2 win in the Community Shield. We beat Chelsea 3-0 away at the very start of the game before beating Everton 4-0 with the second game. We went on a very good run, especially defensively. We beat Brighton 7-0 in the league as well. We drew away 1-1 to Inter. We then drew away to Arsenal, our only draw in the league, and it came very early on in the season. After that draw against Arsenal, you can see we went on a very good winning streak in all competitions, and that includes a 9-0 victory as well over Leicester in the FA Cup. Our first loss and only loss in the league came away to Fulham. Imagine that. Out of all teams, Fulham, and they scored as well in the 90th minute, so we was that close to an unbeaten season. We didn't complete the unbeaten season, but we can't have too many complaints as all the other results went fairly well, very well. We did concede a few against Manchester City here. You can see in the final we conceded 2, which wasn't good enough, and I was almost pulling my hair out. So we actually equalised in the very last kick of the game. We scored in the 96th minute, and then we went 2-1 up in the 94th minute. I know, magic. But they then scored a penalty in the 120th minute, literally the very last kick of the game before penalty shootouts. Luckily we did win on penalties, otherwise that could have been a very heartbreaking end to the season. We're now going to look at the squad stats before moving over to the Scunthorpe results. So, all competitions, Diogo Jota was actually the top goal scorer. He was the poacher. He's got 25 goals in all competitions. Mo Salah got 22, Sadio Mane got 19. Divock Origi had a very good season, 17 goals in 14 starts. Roberto Firmino also scored 14 goals in 31 starts. The most creative players in our side was Mohamed Salah, Thiago, which is no surprise, operating as an advanced playmaker. Sadio Mane is there with 10 and Alexander Arnold is also there with 10. Of course he is. He was the free kick taker. He probably scored a few as well. As you can see, he's on 3 goals. But that there wraps up the Liverpool results. We're now going to head over to the Scunthorpe results. So for Scunthorpe, the main tactic that I used was the first one and also the second one with the box-to-box midfielder. Only on rare occasions I used a roaming playmaker, but there's a reason for that. In the league, we are predicted to finish 14th, and probably a spoiler alert, you can see at the top here, we did finish the season winning it. We were on top of the Sky Bet League 2, though we were only predicted to finish 14th. In the Sky Bet League 2, as you can see here, we played 46, we won 33, we drew 9, losing 4, with a goal difference of plus 66 and a points tally of 108. Again, beating that 100 point mark is always satisfying. But one interesting thing that I can see from the screen here for the average rating, the top 3 are all Scunthorpe players. In the Sky Bet League 2, we did score 88 goals, so not quite 100 that we got with Liverpool, and we conceded 22 goals, so obviously not as strong as with Liverpool. Liverpool are predicted to win the league. They've got some very good players for that league. Scunthorpe are probably predicted to finish mid-table. They have decent players, but the squad isn't the best, far from it. So in the league for the points per game, of course Scunthorpe topped that. We scored the most goals in the league as well, which is always a big bonus. For the most shots for, again, we come in second. So we're not overly aggressive. We're not just shooting, missing. Actually, we're quite clinical. Finishing second is still high, but not finishing first doesn't mean it's a bad thing. We do have the fewest shots against. We have the best pass completion on 85%. It looks like we were by far the best team in the league. For the most possession as well, we had the most possession, which is fairly surprising. For the tackles won, Scunthorpe, with our mid to high block, I guess, we completed the most tackles in the league. For the most dribbles made, we actually dropped down to 5th. Liverpool were top, but we did have Mo Salah and Sadio Mane. For the most clean sheets, Scunthorpe, and for the fewest conceded, Scunthorpe again. For the player stats, for the most goals, we don't actually have anybody in the top, well, 5 I guess. We do have John McAtee on 18. For the most assists, we have Jem Karacan. He's got 16 assists, and we also have Olamola on 12. For the most shots, we have one player making the top 8, and he's literally the 8th player on 101. For the most key passes, we have Jem Karacan again on 120. For the best pass completion, we have our centre back there, the top 3 on 92%. For the most tackles won, we have Teddy Howe on 127. Most dribbles made, Olamola, our winger, on 31. For the most clean sheets, Rory Watson, of course, with 28. And for the fewest conceded, again, Rory Watson on 22. And now to look at the squad stats for Scunthorpe, you can see that the top goal scorer was our inside forward, John McAtee, with 19 goals. Alex Gilliard, I believe that's how you say his name, he played on the right wing of the attack. He also scored 16 goals. Alamola, though, easily my favourite player for the Scunthorpe side. He scored 14 goals, getting 12 assists. And Ryan Loft, our striker, our poacher, scored 13 goals, getting 4 assists. The most creative players was Jem Karacan. He was on all of the set pieces, also from open play. He was our advanced playmaker. Jem managed to get 19 assists and Olamola managed to get 12. Teddy Howe, our right back, managed to get 9. And you can see, again, our striker Ryan Loft is there with 4 assists, which isn't the best and it's not the worst as well. But for a poacher, getting 4 assists is always a decent stat, especially in these lower leagues. But unfortunately, that wraps up this video. If you have enjoyed this type of content, make sure you are subscribed, make sure you like this video, but also make sure you share it. That will help this video out a lot. And of course, if you want to support me, my Patreon link will be in the description below. My name is RDF. It's been a pleasure recording this video for you guys. I will see you guys soon or speak to you soon. Stay safe. Peace out.